Hello, my name is Shasheta and welcome to Uncover Classical Feng Shui session. Feng Shui has been my passion for several years and I am very excited to share this ancient Chinese knowledge with you. In the next few weeks, you will find out Feng Shui trade secrets and most importantly, you will learn how to apply Feng Shui to your home or your office. There will be Q&A session where I can answer all your questions. Be sure to ask your question on my Facebook, Lighter Feng Shui, or ask me on a Twitter, Shasheta67, or send me by email, info@lighterfengshui.com, and answer them in the end of each session. Over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about personal one number, different type of the houses, annual afflictions, kitchen feng shui, flying stars, and there will be sessions designated for wealth, romance, health, academic aspects, and much more. In this session, I will try to separate feng shui myth from real feng shui knowledge. Modern day Feng Shui is surrounded by a lot of myths and misconceptions that create New Age Feng Shui, which has nothing to do with the classical Feng Shui. I feel it's a time to clear all junk around the Feng Shui. Classical Feng Shui is based on environment, formula, not just object placement or colors. So join me in learning classical Feng Shui. Let me first talk to you about the description of Feng Shui. Well, for many people, Feng Shui is rather simple. If you stop someone on the street and ask them what Feng Shui means, a majority of people would say that it's object placement knowledge, referring to the New Age Feng Shui. New Age Feng Shui mainly focusing on things like where to place a money frog, how to decorate your house, and what color you should paint your room or your door. We can say with confidence that New Age Feng Shui only talks about interior design, decoration, and superstitions. I think it's very important to clarify real meaning of Feng Shui, or classical Feng Shui if you will. Classical Feng Shui, it's not a magic, it's not any kind of belief, religion or superstitions. Classical Feng Shui is a part of many layers of Chinese metaphysics that include Yu Jing, Oracle, Bazi, it's astrology, face reading, Kumendunja, day selection, and much more. Classical Feng Shui is divided into several schools and systems, like Sanhe, which is focusing on form, and Sanyan, which is focusing on interior Feng Shui, and so on. Classical Feng Shui involves aspects such as natural environment, qi, energy, and how it flows, meaning whether it comes from inside or outside your house, and much more. Feng Shui will tell you what room you should use more in your house, what positive direction for you to sleep in is, where to place your bed, what directions to use for work, for study, and so on. The rules to follow are always the same, and you don't need to turn your house into stereotypical Chinese restaurant when you practice classical Feng Shui. Let me introduce the main point of classical Feng Shui. The first key point is environment. The second key point is direction and location. The third key point is the shape of the building or residential area. The fourth key point is time. Every house has different area of positive and negative energy that you will learn how to figure out as well. When we are talking about environment, we are talking about Sanhe system. This covered by external environment, landscape, mountains, and water. In the next few weeks, we are going to cover how environment, direction, and location can influence you and your property. For example, what type of the mountains, road, river, lakes, or other water features you have, and how they impact you and your property. Also, we are going to learn about direction, location, and how it influences you on your property. That covered by the Sun-Yin system, which refer to the interior of your home, direction, location, and sectors. For example, in San Francisco or in some areas in Brooklyn or Queens in New York City, it used to be very popular to build semi-attached houses. Each of those houses face the same direction, but it doesn't mean that all houses have the same type of good fortune. Why, you're gonna ask? Because each is in a different location and has a different environmental feature that brings different impacts. It's very important to know what shape your house or office building is. It could be square shape, C shape, or L shape buildings. Why it's important? Different shapes have different type of energy, and when combined with environment, they could have a strong effect on residents. Also, don't forget that different people have to use different properties and different directions. Time. Time is one of the important components of Feng Shui. The time measurement system plays a large role because good Feng Shui cannot be good forever, and negative Feng Shui cannot be negative forever. When time changes, so does Feng Shui. Now remember the key point of classical Feng Shui: environment, location, direction, building shape, and time. Classical Feng Shui doesn't involve decoration of the houses. Okay, let's jump into the classical Feng Shui. And let's start by understanding what Qi is. Qi is a type of the energy that's located between heaven and earth and surroundings our land. Basically, classical Feng Shui texts explain how Earth is rotating and interacting with the Sun and other planets and magnetic fields. All of this affects our planet and as a result creates mountains, oceans, and rivers. Also, classical Feng Shui text explains how our planet interacts with the different constellations. Essentially, we're talking about two main constellations, 12 constellations and 28. The 28 constellations like a cluster, which is then divided into 12 constellations, known to us as the 12 animal signs or yellow belt. What Feng Shui mostly does, it gives you a tool to attract positive energy from the stars and earth and pull it to the house, to enhance some aspect of our lives. But don't forget that energy could be positive like a Sheng Qi or negative like a Sha Qi. Now let's talk about Yin and Yang. The earth is Yin and the heaven is Yang. Yin represents mountains and stillness, while Yang represents water and movement. Mountains produce Qi, energy. Water collects and slowly spreads energy, and wind disperses energy. That's why different landforms have different type of energy. Some landforms produce strong positive energy, and some produce negative energy. Now we know why Feng Shui is called wind and water. A simple tip for you now to recognize good Feng Shui area and a bad Feng Shui area is when you're standing and feel wind, and that wind ruffle your hair. Obviously, this area has negative Feng Shui because the wind dissipates all positive Qi. And if you feel light breeze, then this area has positive Feng Shui because a little breeze moves Qi to the water where it collects Qi and move it. That's why many people saying place water and good luck come to you. The only thing is that they didn't say where to place water to activate positive Qi, not negative Qi. Now let's get into fundamentals. First, we have to calculate and recognize what type of Qi you have in your house. The second thing is recognizing the type of the people that live in the house. and finding out their Gua number, all of which you will learn at the end of the sessions. Now we need to know the Gua number of the person to identify how match them to the house, since Feng Shui is different for each person. You see, we are not talking about decoration or any object placements here. All you need to know what part of the house best resonates with you. Classical Feng Shui deals with three major points: heaven luck, earth luck, and man luck. Generally speaking, heaven luck is what we are born with. It's our destiny that helps us to decode Vazi, which is also known as the four pillars of destiny. Earth luck is what we call Feng Shui, and as I said before, it helps us to understand our environment and work with the forces of nature and energy to support opportunities that comes by. Man luck is based on our actions and our ability to recognize prospects as well as focusing on our goals. In this program, we will be concentrating on the Feng Shui, Earth luck. Okay, now let's go into Q&A session. I select a couple common questions I ask for this Q&A. The first question comes from Ella. Ella asks, do I have to consider my garage as a house if my garage is separate from the house? Good question, Ella. In your case, you don't have to consider your car garage as a part of your house because your car garage is standing alone as a separate building. If your car garage is attached to your house, then you should consider your car garage as a part of your house and include in the house plan. You see, in a Feng Shui, if some structures or buildings are located under the same roof, in this case, they consider as one house or building. The second question comes from Jasmine, and Jasmine asks, my main door faces northwest. How does it affect me and my husband? The answer to your question depends on whether or not northwest is good sector for you and for your husband, and what Gua group you and your husband belong to. Everyone divided into two groups, East group and a West group. Based on a Gua group, we can calculate the positive or negative directions that affect us in our lives. This topic I will cover in the next week session, where I can talk about Gua group and favorable and unfavorable directions. Be sure to prepare a piece of paper, pencil, and of course your birthday for the next week. In order to use Feng Shui and improve aspects in our lives, we need to understand what we want to achieve first. Then and only then we can enhance our life. I hope by now you're starting to understand what classical Feng Shui actually is. Be sure to join me every week because we are going to pick up interesting questions and topics to talk about. If you have any Feng Shui questions and would like to have them answered, you can ask me by email info@lightofengshui.com, or you can ask me on the Light of Feng Shui Facebook page. If you like this video, then let me know in the comments below and give this video a thumbs up. Follow us on the Facebook and Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching our session and see you on the next week on Uncover Classical Feng Shui. Take care.